Cool. Well, sweet. Well, thanks y'all for joining. Yeah, so really open up the space. It's something I've been talking about with Jason and Michael, and we've been talking about roles in the village. And one of the ones is probably the most forward facing is the MC role. So really wanted to create this open space where we could talk about what people might want out of maybe an emceeing 101 or an MC training or a host training from that. Sorry, not host, because that's another role, an MC training, right? But what that could look like, right? And so we do have our own kind of run of show and things that we have for the village format, but also just other like public speaking skills could really be useful for this kind of space. So really want to just open this up, see what people were interested, what people wanted, and then could also throw some things in that I think might be useful, things that I've learned, classes I've taken, people I've learned from. But more than anything, I think it's going to be what people want, right? Because if they're like, we don't want to sit around and do note card practicing on alliteration, then we're not going to do
that. Wow, that was a really good example to pull out. Will you start by describing in your perspective why we have an MC at Village, why we have that MC role?
Sure. I mean, off the cuff, yeah, I think the reason that we do have an MC is to assist and help with the flow. I mean, the village does run off of kind of this open space principle, which whatever happens, happens. So as far as how this event is emceed and how as far as the run of show goes, it's really a structure that is there for reference and you want to hit those things, but when things come up, you have to be able to kind of run with it. So the MC really just help make sure that we do those things. We have visitors show up, we have people pop up. We want to make sure that we're hitting our acknowledgement. We want to make sure that we're getting in our opportunities to chat one-on-one. So really it's just kind of helping facilitate, which all the roles at the village do, is really just facilitating the flow of the gathering and making sure that people have a good time and making sure that we give the props and the kudos to everyone that's showing up and we can connect, which is really, I think at the end of the day, why we all show up here, right?
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Andre. We're just doing this interview style.
I was about to say, this turned into like an interview. I thought this was going to be more like a little, I don't know, Socratic seminar or something. We all can chat.
We do have 25 minutes here, but I was just thinking about for the terms of the recording, there's a few things that we could get that would be really valuable. Will you now share a few things that you do consistently that you think are just really important that an MC needs to do each time?
Yeah, sure. So I think some things like stepping away from the run of show, especially since you can kind of just walk through that and understand the different aspects of the gathering and the things that need to be hit on. I think this is a community, right? So acknowledging, we do have an acknowledgement. And so separating that from acknowledging the people and the things that come up, right? So for example, today is a perfect example. We had Norma Jean and a new visitor, and being able to kind of roll with that and kind of allow the space to explore that relationship, but also treat it a little bit differently. It's not your normal back and forth. The dialogue just kind of flourishes and opens up in the way that it does. So being, ooh, what's that? Make sure you leave some space in the response for, oh, nice, okay, cool. Keep going. Is that what you said?
I broke it, sorry. So
it's cool.
That's my fault. So
oh no, it's cool.
I'll stop talking, do a little pause, and then keep going.
Okay, because you're gonna splice all this together. I get it. But yeah, I think really at the end of the day, whether it's village or any sort of event, I think, at least in my opinion, it always comes down to the people. So making sure you're like constantly acknowledging the people, making sure that at the end of the day and in the back of your mind, it's that people are having a good time. Because depending on the relationship, these are your stakeholders. These are the people you share, like the people you care about, right? So I would say that's a big thing that I usually think about when doing an event is, are the people having a good time? Because if the structure or the way things are flowing isn't accommodating that, then something probably has to change.
Yeah, love that. I'm going to add something, and then Ed, if you want to share any observations that you've had of the emceeing that you think are really important, you would want to see other MCs do. I'm going to add in that something that I see you doing is acknowledging people as they're arriving late. As they're coming in later in the program, you're catching them and saying, hey, welcome, just a little quick shout out. I think that's really important. It's important if you can do it. It's challenging, but I see that, and that's cool.
Oh, am I on?
Yeah, what do you think, Ed? We can maybe open this up. It's not super formal. We can hang out.
Oh. I guess and some of the things I'm doing. Shoot, now I'm blanking.
Yeah, no worries.
It's all good. Yeah. So I mean, oh yeah, go ahead, Jason.
yeah. So what else could be? So Ed, you're considering being an MC.
Yeah.
So what would you want to know kind of before you made a decision of kind of getting into it? What do you want to know?
Well, I mean, I guess from where I'm coming from, I mean, it would be a big step for me. I'm not a great public speaker and everything. So it's more of the, when you're that's the part that from me, the thing I'm concerned about, that's the part that scares me, is, the, just that flowing, that not, it's just being on, because I could sit there, I'm on, I'm Ed, and next we're going to do an acknowledgement, and then we're going to, and I'm going to hand it over to, Stephen now. I mean, that's, I can sit there and read this, but it's that, how do you, really get going? And that's the part that I think needs to be, I don't know, is that something you can learn, or is that something you have, or, that's the part, and maybe that's, and then you talked about earlier about, some public speaking pieces that you could maybe pass along that you've learned, and some of the other stuff. But I mean, you're also part stand up. I mean, it's like, so, that's, so that's kind of like, well, more interested in, I guess, from this aspect of it.
Yeah, totally. I think I'd love to actually get Jason and Michael, because they've both emceed and they've both killed it. So I'd love to get your perspectives on this, but I think the nervousness, at least for me, it never goes away. So I'm always nervous whenever I'm about to speak to people, like that public, it's the butterflies, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna go up, and like, it's like that fear, and that if something goes wrong, then I'm gonna die because I just got killed in our old school way of thinking. It's like a fear, self-protection response. But yeah, and then I think as far as the rest of it, yeah, you do have this structure that helps, and it gives you something to like reference. It's like looking at your notes. It makes you feel comfortable. It's kind of like your foundation, right? But then I think the rest of it is just finding your own personal style, and that's unique to everyone, and that's what makes everyone so brilliant at it, right? So like I've seen Jason MC, Callie, Josh, Michael, and they're all phenomenal because we're not doing it the same. Right. Because they're adding their own flair. Yeah, Jason, Michael, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Because I think, honestly, personally, I don't think there's a way to mess it up unless you like literally like click leave meeting. Then I'm like, that could be like, that's probably worst case scenario. But if you just stay and just talk, everyone has just been phenomenal, and the rest you can pick up, the little weird stuff. But yeah, what do you guys think, Jason, Michael?
Well, I don't know. I know it's just going to say, be yourself and have fun. That's... That's always, and I don't really give a shit. I'm just gonna say stuff no matter what. That's just kind of
that's probably the best thing right there. Say it, and I'm not gonna give a shit. All right?
Yeah, I don't really care. And I've also watched everyone a bunch on the recordings and stuff, so I've kind of picked up all of that too, more or less. But yeah, and like Andre said, being the MC is kind of like being the goalie in soccer. You're the team psychologist. No matter what happens, you got to be happy, upbeat. You got to be like, yeah, everything's great, and you got to be energetic, because you get down, everyone else gets down. So, oh,
all the breakout rooms just disappear. Okay, well, they're okay. It's like,
so you got to be like, well, that's fine, everyone. We'll just do it again, and then we'll jump into our breakouts, and it'll be a great time. What happens is the only thing that could have happened. So yeah, there's a good deal of that. I'm just generally, having the goal of having a good time. That's more important, really, than anything.
Than like performing in some specific way.
Right. Yeah. Getting all caught up in like overthinking and trying to perform and.
Yeah. I think the idea of that we're all coming together to have fun is an important concept. One thing that I've struggled with, though, is that sometimes we talk about really serious things and people share things that are really, really serious. And so you do need to like sometimes come down a notch to kind of, there's no perfect way to do anything, but just recognizing it's not always appropriate to be bubbly and happy, just to like, thank you for sharing, that was really intense. Like, just being honest about how you're feeling. But yeah, I think Michael's right of like, it's better to not give a shit and know that you're going to make lots of mistakes. Nobody's going to care about the mistakes. It's really just like, be yourself and be there and have a good time and try and have fun with everybody. And yeah, be the cheerleader. I like that analogy a lot.
Know what I should do for a training reel is Andre, I should make a reel of all your mistakes. For everyone,
Yes.
even Andre makes mistakes, he's
Yes.
an actual pro. And here's if you would be okay.
But I would say that
do it.
a lot of it comes with experience though, too, because the first time you do it, it's going to be different than the 5th time versus the 10th time.
Yeah, right.
And so so that's why we have a co-MC role. So it's nice to come in as a co-MC, Andre would still, or another MC would still be the main MC. And then you kind of have a back and forth. And
No, that I was going to bring that up. That's, I think, is really good. That's like getting your feet warm and, or wet, warm, wet. Getting your feet wet first.
Yeah.
In the warm pool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just kind of light, MC light.
Yeah. So, okay. Well.
What about your experience, Andre, with in-person emceeing? Is that different? How is that different? How do you connect with that? Is there any difference between virtual and in-person emceeing?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of crossover just as far as habits, techniques, skills, but I think there are nuances that make virtual emceeing versus in-person emceeing different, right? Because body language, eye contact, those two are completely huge. I could be looking at something completely different right now and you wouldn't even know, right? So that you honestly, I think starting with virtual emceeing actually kind of helps because you can be looking at your own show and everyone still thinks you're looking at you versus you go to an in-person event and everyone knows if you're looking down at your notes, right? It's like the guy who walks up to the pedestal and is doing this the whole time and you're like, he doesn't care about us at all, So from that perspective, definitely, I think body language too, right? Like how you position yourself, especially depending on the event. A stage is totally different because you're presented to everyone, but small group, or if you're in 2 to 3 people, you have to change your body language, your positioning. One-on-ones are totally different. So yeah, but a lot of the things are the same. Tonal inflection, like you were saying, Jason, adjusting to meet the needs of what's happening. If it's solemn, if it's sad.
Read the room.
Exactly, read the room, right? And Ed, if you're talking about doing this role, we've talked one-on-one, I have no doubts in my mind. You are a human that is amazingly capable of being able to talk to another human. And if you can do that one-on-one, you can do it with a bigger group, right? So, I will say there have been some people that I've met where on a one-on-one, it is highly uncomfortable. There'd be way more work to do there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, if this is something that you're interested in, and which I'm stoked it is, I don't think this would be a very big learning curve at all. But yeah, Jason, sorry, you were talking about in-person and virtual. I think other things. Go ahead.
There's virtual in person, so the MC is still on a computer screen facing the real
audience.
people.
Sure. The pre-recordings of putting them up on the projector. The CEO is calling from Italy or whatever, right?
He just has his laptop on a chair there.
Come on in.
Sure.
Hi.
Only Sender gets to be inside.
But yeah, let's see.
Seeing. Look, we got another MC with us.
Yo, what's up? Long time no see.
I know. I finally got out of my Tuesday group a little early.
Yeah, it was good. Ed, have you met Lorraine? Lorraine, have you met Ed?
No.
Hey, Ed.
Oh, what's up?
We have a stand-up desk that I'm too short to be a part of.
Well, super cool. We're talking about emceeing 101, so tips and tricks. We were talking about differences between virtual and in person. I think equipment is another one, right? So projection is probably huge. What's up, Michael?
Michael has something to say about that.
I have things to say, but keep going.
Oh, okay, cool. Don't worry. I believe you have comments on equipment. We've talked about this multiple times. But if you're in a room and it's all just vocal projection, if you don't have any mics or you don't have any speakers, it's gonna be totally different, right? You're gonna have to enunciate better. You're gonna have to project better versus the type of equipment that you have, which can totally change the impact of a virtual gathering. If your mic is way over here and you're talking like that the whole time, right? People may not be able to hear you. So Mike, yo, what you got on equipment?
Good mic is like the most important thing. You can get a good mic for $40. It's not a big expenditure. And it makes a huge difference. Just for well, actually, my computer might lose my shit if I switch to my bad mic, and if I move this, it'll fall off. Anyway, I have a good mic. So does Andre, and so does Jason, and you can really tell the difference. And I've worked with a lot of our Zoom recordings, and I've gone a little insane listening to everyone's terrible built-in mics. Yeah, so a good mic makes makes a real big difference because everyone can actually hear what you're saying, and there's not lots of terrible crackling everywhere, or the distortion of the voice isn't breaking.
There's your mic.
There's my mic. Yeah, that's my mic right there.
Yo,
I got a
it's
mic
got a
arm
light?
too.
It's like
And-
red.
Yeah, and I may have better sound than you actually, Andre. Or
probably
it's
is.
equal. It's equal. Because
That's
I
a
was
fancy
bored.
mic,
Anyway, but I take it a little too seriously. But anyway, it's good to have some sort of good like non-built-in mic. You can get a decent like $40 or $50. And that makes an absolutely massive difference. And I should actually put together a reel of that. So between like you, Andre, and like everyone else,
Is,
But
is
having
there
a good
going to be
mic,
a little mic envy around here now?
It's like, how big's
guess.
your mic? No, I'm just kidding. No, I will add the caveat there though, that is definitely not a barrier to entry. Like you should always just go for it. Like right now we can hear you clearly. And if you can hear us clearly, that's all you need to get started. So I would never be like, oh, you don't have like a $40 mic from Walmart or Target, so we're gonna need to get that before you MC, right? But it is something that is definitely interesting as you go into the virtual space, like Michael was saying, especially when it comes to recordings or doing things that are being filmed. Yeah, proper sound clarity can actually like either get you or lose you jobs. So that's a little spaced from live event emceeing though.
So what's it sound like? What's the quality when I'm talking on my laptop, which
Yeah, so I would guess that you just got like the little kind of like you're just using the laptop mic.
it's built-in laptop right now, so it's pretty crappy.
They just generally are, because that's like a little pinhole,
Yeah.
and Jason, it's an actual, big
Yeah.
like for example, I
Okay.
have so yeah, like oh fuck, sorry, it fell over. I gotta no, damn it, sorry, this is going poorly for me. Anyway, I have to tape this up. We had this problem yesterday too. Anyway, so and it moved away from my face. Anyway, so this is my old mic. This is like $40, and you can
Okay.
see it's an actual mic. There's my finger for scale, and it's better than like the little just teardrop thing. That it was just a little pinhole that's on your computer, doesn't pick much of anything up. So yeah, a good mic, and my other mic, which again will fall over if I breathe on it too heavily, is quite a bit. Is a legit nice one. Andre also has like a legit really good one.
Yeah, this one I would say is like more, what do you call it?
Oh, okay.
It's like just a blue mic. I'd say it's probably
Oh yeah,
middle of the road
that.
as far as price.
Mhm.
That one's a bit more expensive.
This
That's like
is the
a
cheapest.
higher quality condenser
Mhm.
mic that's used for like room style, so less one-on-one, more capturing the sound of a room. But yeah.
I think this tip has to go to the top of the list because I did not even think of it. It never occurred to me at all.
Your microphone, Andre. Do you
Yeah.
use your head? You got your head earbuds in, but you don't have a microphone on that, right? You're using your.
I'm not using the mic on this. I only have the headphones in. I've plugged into the mic. So yeah, the mic, this is just a USB mic, which makes it really easy to connect to your laptop. You don't have to have an XLR connection. An XLR is like your fancy way of connect. Wow, this is so dark in here. Sorry, guys. XLR is a fancy way of connecting like mics and everything. But this is just a USB, so it's really simple. And then I just use my headphones plugged in. It's just a standard 3.5 millimeter jack, so that I don't have to get feedback from the computer speakers going back into the mic if it doesn't have that capability. Yeah.
And of course and then you have the lighting, the background, the studio lights, got to get all that too. Right?
Yeah, that's a prereq in order to do this, right? No, not at all. And like we've had MCs, and maybe it's Michael, a little bit of a nuisance for you to edit and have the sound difference quality, but yeah, I would say none of this should be a barrier to entry. I think we got like a village mic once. I think Josh has it.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I got a mic from like Walmart, and I was like sending it around.
Oh
yeah,
we talked about doing that. That's good.
Yeah, it's good to have. And the other thing is that like a mic is built into like a headphone like earbuds that Andre had. That's basically a computer mic that they put closer to your face. So the audio quality on that is no better than a built-in computer mic. I've just done way too much of it. I've listened to too much Table Zoom audio to know that.
Well, we got 5 minutes left here. What else? What haven't we covered about the emceeing? What about preparing? What kind of preparing do you do, Andre?
Yeah, so initially when we first started this, like you said, you get more and more comfortable with it. I did way more preparing. Like I'd actually go through the run of show and like practice the different things I was going to say. Now you've done them for a couple of years, so not as much there, but I'd say getting started, yeah, walking through the run of show, making sure you're feeling comfortable with all the different aspects, how you could throw it to someone else. If you have a co-MC, how that relationship's going to be. And those are things we could probably practice is just going back and forth. So like, hey, yeah, we're moving on to our acknowledgement. Ed, who do we have for our acknowledgement today? And you'd have your run a show with their name or the agenda opened up. So prior to the gathering, I basically have 3 tabs on my computer. I've got my email, I've got the agenda, and I've got the run a show. And so those are the 3 documents that I'm looking at and going back and forth between. Yeah, so I've basically got like 3 different windows open on my screen right now. And then, yeah, to prepare, there's really, well, now we're trying out this new run of show, but generally there's kind of 2 questions you need to prepare for our one-on-ones. So those are things that I'll come up with, think about before the gathering. I also like to go through the email, through people's check-ins so that I can make references, right? It's like having backup fodder. So that like if someone says something, I can reference something, or if I need to fill a little bit of space, I can be like, oh yeah, like that thing that you said in the check-in, like in the check-in email, or that was a great thing that Callie proposed for the question. I riffed on that one a lot tonight because I actually really liked their questions, you know. And so yeah, those are the things that I'll do to prep, is just have some of that in my back pocket so that I'm ready. And then the questions, right? And then like, you want to talk about mess ups, Michael? Like I couldn't find the questions either. And I was like, oh, maybe Michael has them open. So I threw it over to you and you were like, oh, I can't find it. So yeah, that was like me. I couldn't find them. I was like, where are these? Dang, I couldn't, like, I was like scrolling through the agenda right quick. So.
And, yeah. And one thing that I'll say that sets Andre apart is the transitions. Like you move through everything so smoothly, like it's just like so visible on the recordings where it's just like, you know, like I can, like if I'm doing the video, I can make everyone else look good, you know, enough, but like you're just like so smooth, I don't have to do anything, you know. So
thanks, Michael, I like that. I will flip a little bit what you said about making other people look good. My opinion, that is the most important and my favorite thing about public speaking. It's honestly why I do it, is there's this spotlight. Imagine you have this spotlight and you get to do this and shine it on all of the cool people that are around you. And that was how I started. I started emceeing morning dance parties. And so we'd have b-boys and hip hop artists and musicians. And my job was basically, I was a glorified hype man. And they handed me this spotlight and I just got to sit up in my little booth and just move it around, but with my voice. So when you're talking, Mike's doing it with the videos, right? Michael's doing it with the videos. He's highlighting these people, putting them on the screen. And so that's really what, if I could talk about like what I think emceeing is, it's being able to shine the spotlight on all the amazing people and their skills and the things that they have to offer. And the village has a lot of those. So the transitions become really easy at a certain point, at least for me. And easy, I don't want to like downplay like that ability, but it's when you start to like just see all the different unique aspects that everyone can bring to these gatherings, it's just a simple, oh, whoa, check that out. Oh, let's talk about that. Let's look at that. And that's how it's going on in my head.
One more thing I just kind of popped in my head is like what would be a problem area, like an introductions to, for new people or people that, and things start going on a little too long, and time starts, because we are on a schedule sometimes, or we are on a schedule. So how do you kind of try to get them to transition? Can't just cut them off. I mean, really, or you try not to. I mean, you don't seem to, but you want to try to nudge them to stop or wind it down. How do you do that?
I'm gonna open this one up to everyone because I'll be honest with you, Ed, that is one of the hardest things for me because I suck at cutting people off. It is like the bane of my emceeing existence to like, oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to move on. And I have had to do that, but I hate doing it. Because it feels like I'm interrupting. And like as a child, I was taught to talk less. Go figure, I do this now. So yeah, I think it's waiting for an opportunity that doesn't make it, at least in my experience, like doesn't make it sound rude. So if they pause for the briefest second, at least it doesn't sound like you're cutting them off. Like if they take a breath or if they're trying to generate their next thought, if they are just those consistent, like long talkers, you're going to have trouble. You're probably gonna have to be like, all right, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to move on. And that'd be how I do it. Michael is way better at just being like, we're on a schedule, people.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, so what I say at the beginning, is that if we talk more here, that's directly taking away from the one-on-ones and the breakouts. Like that time comes directly out of it. And so you can jump in and say like, well, thanks, whoever. We're really excited to hear more about that when we get into one-on-ones and breakouts and hear more about it, because there's always more opportunities to talk. So we can always just kind of shuffle it, into, you could say everything, you could say anything you want in these things, but but the talking, so basically all talk at the beginning directly takes from the fun stuff, and moves now since to the end to, kind of get rid of a lot of that problem. And that's what's great at the end, and because everyone just talks.
So we're going to have to kind of wrap up here, Michael, move on, okay?
Yep, we are, exactly.
I want to add one more thing to that. Also,
that was well done, actually.
Anyway, interjecting. I will say that sometimes you can't interject because it's rude and people are in the middle. So gotta let them do it. So we'll let them finish and then just put the reminder out to everybody at that point. It's like, oh, thank you so much for hearing. And just a reminder that we're a little tight on time. So that's sometimes you can just hit it on the back.
Sometimes it's really a deep subject and it's hard to interrupt something like that. Real quick, before I know we're going to get called, Andra and Andre, you guys are going to have to team up at some point.
Oh yeah, I know.
Andra and Andre.
Once I got the proper pronunciation of her name, that's another one that's really like important to me. I'll like, even if I mess up, I like to ask beforehand, but even if I mess up, I will say someone's name so that they can say it back. Cause like, what was it? 12 ways to win friends and influence people. People love hearing their own name. And it's going to make them feel super important. Right. So say people's names, even if as I'm saying, just be like, oh yeah, Jason and Lorraine, Ed, Michael, everyone's like, oh, that was a great gathering. It was just phenomenal.
That's so true. Saying people's names. I totally agree. Yeah. And pronunciations. Yeah. Don't be afraid about mispronunciating. Just apologize and say it the right way and make sure you get it, you hear it back.
If you can, ask before. That's what I always try to do. Don't always get the chance though.